Chris with another episode of Stories in Cardboard. This one is a little overdue as I'm kind of piggybacking on the Clay Hopper video. I just wanted to touch a little bit more on the Pacific Coast League from the 1940s. And the cards we're going to look at today are from the 1946, the 1948, and the 1949 Remar Bread cards. First guy we're going to look at is Rugger Artazoa. Basically, he was a career minor league player, but did get a cup of coffee with the New York Yankees. I believe it was 1947, I think it was, where he literally pitched in one game kind of in a mop-up role. But when he was living, he was actually the oldest living Yankee player at the time, shortly before he passed away. And if you look at the back of these cards, this is how you actually tell the difference in the years. This card with the back with the loaf of bread on it that has the red loaf, those are actually the earlier ones from 1946. And we're looking at all Oakland Oaks players today. And there are going to be some players that you're definitely very familiar with. And so the next guy we're going to look at is Ralph Buxton. Buxton, he was kind of another kind of cup of coffee guy. I think he played 5 games in 1938 with the Philadelphia A's. And then he went into the military service during World War II. And when he came back, I think he pitched in maybe 15 or so games for the Yankees in 1949. I'm not aware of any other cards that he has other than from this set. And the next guy is Hirsch Martin. And again, this is from 1946. He played in a little over 600 games in the late 30s and 40s with the Yankees and the Phillies. And you can actually get cards of him from the 1939 and the 1940 play ball set, which I think is pretty cool. So he had a little more than a cup of coffee in the minor or in the major leagues there. And this next guy, this is kind of an interesting guy here. So it says Johnny Price. He was really more known as Jackie Price. Now, he played 7 games for the Cleveland Indians in 1946. And he was just kind of your average baseball player. But what he really became known as is he would entertain fans at games. And he was kind of like a clown of baseball, if you will. And he could do some really incredible tricks, including throwing 3 different balls with one hand. And there was just a lot of different things where he would hang upside down and hit baseballs that were pitched to him. But he really entertained crowds and things like that. And a lot of people would say, like Bill Veeck and Tris Speaker, they would talk about some of the amazing tricks that he would do. And Tris Speaker even said that he did things that if I had not seen them, I wouldn't even believe were possible. But sadly, I guess he had a lot of demons in his life or whatever, and he ultimately actually took his own life by hanging himself. And the next one, some of you may recognize this guy. This is Gene Bearden, who kind of was made famous playing for the Cleveland Indians. Had a nice little run in 1948 where he's a 20-game winner, and he also won a game against the Boston Red Sox, a playoff game when the 2 teams finished tied for first place. He pitched that playoff game that ultimately sent them to the World Series. And I think he pitched that game on 1 day's rest also after pitching another complete game the previous game. Now, in the World Series, he won Game 3 of the 1948 World Series with a complete game shutout. And then he was also the pitcher who came in and saved the clinching game of Game 6. So he closed out Game 6 and clinched the World Series for the 1948 Cleveland Indians. Next guy is Bo Palika. You may recognize the last name. His brother, I think it's Irv Palika, is in the 1955 Bowman baseball set, who played for the Brooklyn Dodgers. I know most of you people will know who this is. This is Casey Stengel. Now, Casey was a baseball player too. Everybody kind of knows him as a manager, but he was also a baseball player. And he was a baseball player that not a lot of people actually took seriously. That was kind of his knock, is he was kind of a clown, kind of goofing around a lot and things like that. And he actually started out playing for the Brooklyn Dodgers in, I think, 1913. And what he is famous for, actually, a lot of people may not know this, but he was the first Dodger to bat in Ebbets Field. During an exhibition game against the New York Yankees, he was the first Dodger to come up to bat. He also was the first person to hit a home run. He hit a home run in that very same game, but he was the first person to hit a home run in Ebbets Field. And then a couple weeks later, he was the first player to hit a home run during the regular season in Ebbets Field. So, obviously he went on to, he was also a manager for the Dodgers and also for the Boston Bees, Boston Braves, before he ultimately became manager for the Yankees. Now, a lot of people they were kind of surprised that he was named manager for the Yankees, because he was not considered a very successful manager. And again, he was kind of known to be a little bit of a clown, and ultimately he had a really successful career where he either managed or played for 9 world championship teams. Now this next card is, again, this is from 1948. Now the 1948 Remar Bread cards have the blue loaf of bread. That's how you can tell them from that. And this is a card of Chuck Dressen, who was kind of known mostly for his time in the early to mid 50s as manager for the Brooklyn Dodgers, and I think he also managed some other teams like maybe the Pirates, I think the Cardinals, and maybe the Phillies, I think is who he managed. But what he also did, and some people may not know this, is he actually briefly played quarterback for the Decatur Staleys in 1920, and they were kind of the precursor, if you will, to the Chicago Bears. He actually played for George Halas, which I found really, really interesting. So he was actually a quarterback as well in the beginning days of the NFL. This next card, again, is from 1948, and this is Dewey Soriano. And he has a little bit of a place in history as well. He was the owner of the 1969 Seattle Pilots for the 1 year that they were a Major League Baseball team. Now, they had a lot of financial issues, and he was just kind of barely keeping the team afloat. And ultimately, the team went into bankruptcy, and that's when Bud Selig actually was awarded the team in bankruptcy court, and he moved the team to Milwaukee, becoming the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, he also may have been one of the first people to think about a domed stadium. He was trying, when he was with the Seattle Rainiers, he was trying to convince the city to build a domed stadium because he really believed they needed it because of the weather, and he just really had this vision of having this massive stadium there. And again, you have to kind of understand that the Pacific Coast League, they were trying to become another major league in the late 40s and early 50s. And they may have actually succeeded at that if it had not been for the fact of the Dodgers and the Giants moving to the West Coast after the 1957 season. That kind of, all of a sudden, the people on the West Coast, they had teams on the West to follow, and you started having more national TV started getting more popular around that time as well. This next card is Cookie Lavagetto. He played for the Brooklyn Dodgers and the Pittsburgh Pirates during his career. He was a 4-time All-Star, but he's probably best known for a hit that he got in Game 4 of the 1947 series that actually broke up the Yankees' Bill Bevins no-hitter with 1 out in the 9th. And now that would have actually been the first no-hitter in World Series history. He actually broke that up. He had a very pretty extensive coaching career as well. And then the last card we're going to look at it's a 1949, and it looks similar to the 1948 with the blue loaves of bread on the back, but it will actually show the 1948 stats. Now, some of you may recognize this person. This is Jackie Jensen, who played briefly for the New York Yankees, probably more well known for the Boston Red Sox. This is actually Jackie Jensen's first baseball card that was ever produced, so I think that's kind of cool. He actually had a 1948 Leaf football card as well. He was a two-sport star, and he is actually one of 2 players to play both in the Rose Bowl and a World Series. And that other person is Dodger Chuck Esigian. So I think that's kind of, I don't know, I think that's pretty cool that that's his first baseball card. And, you know, it just kind of shows you that there's little hidden gems in some of these cards that you don't ever think about. Now, someday I'm hoping that I can, I'd like to get some Z-Nut cards for the Pacific Coast League. Those are a little more expensive. Maybe someday I'll be able to get one of those, but who knows? We'll see. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you were able to learn something. I appreciate you all watching, and take care.